Last week, the heartbreaking news came out that Whitney Houston died. Some folks say that she was a crackhead, but I want to know who's perfect. Can I get a witness in here? All of us are some ex something or another. Had it not been for the goodness of God, we might be laying in our own grave. Can I get a witness in here? The medical field is astonished at the fact that we have children being born practically with type 2 diabetes. 95% of the 40% who are under stress are stressed because they are dealing with something that they did not expect. There are approximately 14 million adults who are not only under stress and on the verge of anxiety attacks, but are also on the verge of a nervous breakdown. It was further explained that the leading group in this depressed state were those between the ages of 30 and 50. Have you ever seen so many young people dying? 1 out of every 5 people, counting yourself, are at a place of unhealthy stress as it relates to going through something which you were not prepared for or you did not plan for. They further stated this kind of anxiety and stress is no longer an individual problem, but rather a national problem. But it even creeps into your family life, and from there to your community of friends, and even inside the household of faith. When people find themselves under the pressure of anxiety and stress, it often leads to discouragement and depression like Whitney. And when it leads to depression and anxiety, children get birthed by the name of drug addiction, rage, alcoholism, suicide, anger, helplessness, and hopelessness. Is there anybody in here right now looking at me? You shouted, lifted up holy hands. You love the Lord. You have the faith, but there's somebody right now, you're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. You're about to go off the edge because you're going through so much stress that it has produced emotions that you have never encountered with in your life or you have ever dealt with. It's one thing to be at a place where you can anticipate what's coming. But what happens when you have played the games by the rules? What happens when you've done everything you were raised, educated, and taught to do, and things still blow up in your face? What happens when you plan, you save, you invest, and you do everything that was required of you, and the thing doesn't work out? I guess I'm not talking, I'm talking to myself. Out of nowhere, everything is gone. You are a faithful tithe payer, but you're still broke, robbing Peter to pay Paul. What happens? You helped other people, but now you are the one needing help, and there is nobody here that will stand to help you. What happens when I go through all of my mail every day and I get nothing but more depressing news about deadlines I know in the heck there's no way I'm going to reach? I'm going to just put the bills on the side and let the folk call me all they want. Either I pay the note, the house note, have a place to live, or be put out of doors. And then on top of that, I have to wake up every morning with pain because I have to go to a job that doesn't appreciate nor value me, but overworks me. Then has the attitude with me when I try to put my family over them. If that's not enough, I have to go to church and deal with people who want to speak and smile and hug me and shake my hand. And I want you to know I really don't feel like doing any of the above. It's not that I don't love God, but I'm getting a little agitated and confused at who God is, because if God was God, why in the world am I going through so much stress and mess in my life? Because I can't quite come to grips with how I'm struggling like this when I've been so faithful and true to him. I mean, if the truth be told, and now some of you are going to say, I know you're right. Right about here, I was doing better when I didn't love the Lord. I was doing better when I did whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have my back up against the wall then. But now that I'm trying to do the holy thing and walk away from the wrong thing and be in a positive environment, everything in my life seems to be going wrong. You want to sit in church and tell me that I'm blessed and highly favored. You tell me to shout out, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. But I just received an eviction notice, but I'm highly blessed and favored. I'm told I'm singing these songs, clapping my hands because of the love I feel around me. But if I were honest, I'm about ready to explode. People just don't understand. It's so bad, you just give me a reason to cuss you out. Doesn't take much. All I need you to do is cut your eyes at me. Look at me the wrong way. Stretch your neck the wrong way at me. I mean, just cut in front of me while I'm driving, and words I thought I had forgotten will be just like riding a bicycle. I'll get it going again. I'm at my wit's end. And I know most of you in here, y'all super saved. But there's some real veteran Christians in here who can say, I love God and all of that, but right about now, don't you push me. Then I have to sit next to you in church. And you look at me like I shouldn't be crying or I shouldn't be screaming. Are you crazy? With everything I have been dealing with everything I've been struggling with, crying and screaming in church is the only way I'm still yet holding on. So if you don't like the way I'm screaming, you can kick rocks for all I care. Because I'm trying to survive in this world. I think I'm preaching this morning. Listen. When you are under unexpected stress, not just stress from stuff that you know was coming, but when things unexpectedly happen, that's where the woman was of our text. She was not only bearing her son, her only son, but she was also a widower, which means every male in the household has died. Which means what was her economy has been unexpectedly affected, and if that's not bad enough, children should bury parents. Can I get a witness? Parents ought not to bury children. The future and legacy of this family is no more. During that time when males of the household had died, the only option available for women was to go into prostitution, which means because her finances are messed up and her future seems to be foreclosed, and there is no more vision, she is now going to be forced to take a job that is beneath her value. Y'all going to catch it after a while. The text says, soon after. Another says, after this. Inquiring minds would like to know after what. If you look at the preceding verse, you will discover a healing takes place without Jesus ever going to the house. It was the act of faith from a centurion that allowed a word to travel back to the house, so that when the man got back to the house, the man discovered that the word got in the house without Jesus ever coming to the house. A word birthed in a miracle, which means if you have enough faith right now, right this very second, Jesus can fix something in your house before you ever get back to your house. But I declare this morning, if you have enough faith to believe that God's word can travel and leave this church, by the time you get home, you will discover his word has arrived at your house. The text says, after this, what if? The text says that Jesus comes to the city of Nain. And as Jesus was approaching the gates of the city, look at the text. The text says on the way out, there's a funeral procession carrying this dead woman's son to the cemetery. The city of Nain sits on the top of a mountain. Where does the city of Nain sit? Where does it sit? But the entrance of the city is at the bottom of the mountain. The cemetery was located at the bottom of the mountain, which was at the gates of the city. The text says Jesus meets them at the gates of the city, which means Jesus meets them at the cemetery. The widow and the funeral procession was on their way down to the cemetery when they encountered Jesus, or when he was on his way up to the city. Normally, when Jesus comes to us, he has to come down. I'm going to say it again. Normally, when Jesus comes to us, he has to come down. He came down from heaven. But at this moment, Jesus is on his way up. Jesus raises the dead boy and sends them back to the city, which was back up. But they didn't go back up until they meet Jesus after they have come down. Woo, I think I said a word. So that the turnaround doesn't happen for them until they were on their way down. You didn't catch that. If they don't begin to have a reversal of their fortune, they'll never have a change of their inheritance. It's until they had a journey that has taken them back down. Because sometimes the turnaround in your life does not happen in your life until you have had a journey that takes you all the way down. Oh, preach, Pastor Cox. Because sometimes the way back up is only experienced after you have had a journey all the way down. Your money is down. Your family is down. Your situation is down, and you really can't take much more. But the good news of the text is you don't have to worry, because Jesus sooner or later will catch you on your way down, but he'll push you back up on your feet. Then secondly, the next thing is the fact that Jesus will meet you when you are at your lowest point. Folk laughing at you, said I was through. they're about to foreclose on my house. But when I think about what he's done for me, I can just shout. When I think about how I was sick and the doctors gave up on me, and I'm still here to testify. When I think about the habits that I've had in my life and I'm overcoming my habits, I can't help but shout, oh, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. The text says he met that woman at her lowest point to take her back up. That ought to bless you right there. I said he met the woman at her lowest point to take her back up. That ought to bless somebody. You can't find your friends. Nobody to answer the phone. Folk will talk about you, but that does not matter because Jesus will meet you on your way down. Now listen at this. The text shows us that sometimes Jesus turns your life around through divine initiative of intercession without the necessity of your invitation. Can I say that again? Because y'all done missed that. I'm going to say that one more time. Jesus turns your life around through divine initiative of intercession without the necessity of your invitation. Look at the text. We love to affirm how Jesus is available when we call on him. We sang the song, if the world from you withhold of its silver and its gold. Y'all know it. And we say, take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. Release it to Jesus. Turn it over to Jesus. Give it to Jesus. That's good. But nowhere in the text do we see that Jesus became involved at the request of the woman. Y'all done missed that. I'm going to say it again. Nowhere in the text do we see that Jesus became involved at the request of the woman or anybody else. Matter of fact, if we look at the text, she is taking her issue to the place that matches her issue. Her life is dead. So she is taking her issue to a place of death. Jesus only gets involved because the woman happened to cross his presence. Jesus only gets involved because death is about to intersect with life. And death cannot hang around in the presence of life. So Jesus interposes his presence into her problem. The woman never asks for help from Jesus. Did y'all hear what I said? Jesus gets involved with her issue without asking her permission, without her asking or requesting for help. Some of you should be shouting right about now because there was time when I didn't have sense enough to give it to Jesus. There were times when I was trying to work it out for myself. There were times when I wasn't even praying about it or thinking about it or talking to him about it. But I'm rejoicing because when I didn't have enough sense to give it to him, he just took it from me. Can I get a witness in here? He stood by me when I didn't ask or when I didn't ask him to invite him. And he stepped in and I had no intentions of breaking up with that man. No intentions of breaking up with that woman, but God stepped in right on his own to help me get out of my mess. I was minding my own business, but because my future was so important to Jesus, Jesus fixed it for me, and I didn't even ask him. I didn't ask like blind Bartimaeus. I didn't ask like the 10 lepers. I didn't ask like the woman with the issue of blood. I didn't ask like David when he said, create in me a clean heart and renew within me the right spirit. I didn't ask like Jeremiah, is there no balm in Gilead? I didn't ask like Job, oh, that I might find him. Jesus just showed up and fixed things for me. Turn to your neighbor and say, he fixed it for me. Look at the text, and I'm going to stop. They are carrying the boy to the cemetery, which means his mother is a widow, but his daddy is also dead. Look at the text. Listen, she is taking the son to the place where his daddy is, which means his life has followed in the same footsteps and landed in the place where his daddy ended up. It's a cycle of death, and he is following in his daddy's footsteps and lands in the place where his daddy ended up. If you got friends who was hanging, their mama and their daddy and their friends was hanging on the corner, you ought to know you're going to end up hanging on the corner if you don't change your life. Whom I'm talking to you? I'm talking to you. You were going to be like, are you going to be like your mama? Teenage pregnancy. They told you you would end up in jail. They told you would never amount to anything, but Jesus intervenes in your life to let you know you do not have to follow in the footsteps of anybody else. Jesus has a design purpose just for your life. You ought to shout on that. You may be dead on a dead-end street in a dead situation, but you can still say, I will do better. Say it, I will do better. Because Jesus will step in and he will break the cycle for you. Look at the text. The woman has buried her husband. She's about to bury her only son. They are right at the cemetery. And Jesus says to the woman, don't cry. The woman doesn't know who Jesus is. Because if the woman knew who Jesus was, she would have asked for help. The woman does not know who Jesus is. The woman has to look at Jesus. Is that all right if I kind of testify? You know, it's really strange about folk. I done lost a loved one, and you tell me don't cry. They tell me, get over it. Are y'all? Come on. And we think we helping folk who've lost loved ones. Get over it. It's going to be in my mind, this woman is saying, I don't think you understand. My husband is dead. I'm at the cemetery. I'm about to bury my son. I'm by myself, and you got the nerve to tell me, don't cry? What's wrong with you? I don't have anybody else. I had plans for my life. My only child is dead, and you are telling me when life takes a turn for the worse and death claims my only child, don't cry? I lost my job. They fired me after 20 years. I've never smoked a day in my life, but I just found out that I have cancer, and the doctor says it's in the last stage, and I only have a few months left to live. You got the nerve to tell me, don't cry? I done raised my child in the church, and he's on that stuff. And you telling me, don't cry? My husband has said, out of the clear blue sky, I want out. I haven't done anything, but I want out. And you got the nerve to tell me, don't cry. My house is being foreclosed on, and you're telling me, don't cry. The original text says, stop crying. Listen, crying is not wrong. Nothing's wrong with my grief. Nothing's wrong with my emotions. Nothing's wrong with expressing my pain. But look at the text. But what Jesus is really saying, you have cried long enough. Y'all didn't miss that. Jesus is saying you have cried long enough because crying was all right before I showed up. But since I showed up, stop acting like the person who can fix it is not in your presence. Can I get a witness in here? Stop acting like the God you serve is not able to fix it for you. Is there anybody in here who knows that God can fix it for you? If there's somebody in here who knows that God can fix it for you, you ought to get on your feet and say, yes. You ought to get on your feet and say, thank you, because you turned it around for me. Can I get a witness in here? You turned it completely around. You turned it around for me. You can be seated. I remember as the praise team comes up, I remember when we were in Texarkana. You know, people like to say that I've always gotten the best of everything. They like to say that I've gotten all the great churches. They see the finished product. They don't see how it used to be. But I'll never forget in Texarkana, been there for 3 years. And just finished building a church. I got a phone call from the president. And the president says, we're getting ready to move you to Houston. Now, we had just struggled over the fact that my wife had not gotten a job in Texarkana. And you already know an Adventist preacher's salary is worse than minimum wage. And we ended up baptizing somebody who was on the school board. And that's how Adela got a job. And so we were kind of getting out of our financial situation. Got this phone call. Time to go to Houston. And I said, what for? Just got here. Yes, indeed. It's time for the good of the work. W.C. Jones. That was his favorite thing when he got ready to move people. For the good of the work. And so, we packed up. My brother, your former pastor, was in Houston also. And so, we stayed at his house and we started looking for houses. And we found a house not too far from them. Back in those years, housing market was out of sight. Interest rates was 15, 16, 18%. And so we found this house, 2116 Hanley Drive. And we decided, by God's grace, we were going to buy this little house. We practically gave our house away in Texarkana. Didn't know the people. They were supposed to be sending us $75 a month until they paid off the house. Y'all in here? Don't know the people from Adam to Eve. I'm talking about how God can fix it. And so, we went to closing on this little house in Houston, Texas. And apparently, the realtor that we had, we must have been his second customer. Because we were told, or at least we thought we were told, how much money we were supposed to bring to close. That's right, baby? And we had our little savings that we had saved up. Adela had called home and got money from her parents, and I got a little something, and that's all we had. We had Kareem at the time. And so we went to closing. I had just gotten my little piece of check, Ella Ford. Just got my little piece of check. We went to closing, and they did all the talking, the yak. The bottom line was how much money we were supposed to have. And the man said $10,100.50. We were only prepared to pay $8,000. I had just gotten my piece of check for the month, because Sister Cox was no longer working. And so I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I said, baby, if we write this $10,000 check, we won't have nothing for a whole month. All we'll have is a place to stay. She looked at me, she said, write the check. That's faith from my wife. And I'm trying to figure out what in the world is wrong with my wife. Most of the time she said, you better not do that. She said, write the check. I said, I wonder, do she understand? So I said, baby, did you hear what I just said? I said, if we write this check, we're not going to have no more money. She said, write the check. You know, men, we always follow instructions, don't we? No. And I wrote the check. Got a house. No food. No more gas was $1 something then. That was, had this Honda. That's all we had. Went over to my brother's house, Billy. And I said, brother, we got the house. He said, good. I said, but here's the rest of the story. We don't have no more money. What we gonna do? And Billy says to me, hold your head up, brother. Y'all not up in there. Hold your head up, brother. He said, do you know where you're standing? You in your brother's house. He says, if we got food, you got food. Oh, y'all not up in here. He said, if you need gas, I'll give you my credit card. He says, it's going to be all right. That's how it is. You try to figure out everything for yourself, but when Jesus comes in and when he steps in your presence, everything is going to be all right. Come on, y'all sing that song for me. Everything's going to be all right. Whatever's going on in your life, Jesus he'll get in the presence. And when he gets in your presence, you understand beyond a shadow of a doubt, he's going to tell you, don't cry, because you're in the presence of a mighty God.
Searched all over, couldn't find nobody. I looked high and low, still couldn't find nobody.
Nobody greater, nobody greater, no.
Nobody greater than you. Searched all over,
Couldn't find nobody.
I looked high and low, still couldn't find nobody.
Nobody greater, nobody greater, no.
Nobody greater than you.
Nobody greater, nobody greater, no.
Nobody greater than you.
Nobody greater, nobody greater, no.
Nobody greater than you.
Nobody greater,
Nobody
nobody greater, no.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater,
Nobody greater than you.
nobody greater than you, yeah.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater,
Nobody greater.
nobody greater,
Nobody greater than you.
nobody greater,
Nobody greater.
nobody greater,
Nobody greater.
nobody greater,
Nobody greater than you.
nobody greater, nobody greater,
Nobody greater.
nobody greater,
Nobody greater.
nobody greater.
Nobody greater than you.
Nine. In New Orleans, there was two beaches. One was called Lincoln Beach, and the other was called Pontchartrain Beach. Lincoln Beach was where the white folk had their beach. And Pontchartrain Beach was our beach. We lived in Pontchartrain Park, and Billy and Michael and I, Daddy would drive us around, and we would drive by Lincoln Beach. And right in the front of Lincoln Beach, they had this huge roller coaster. And we would get in the parking lot. At least you could get in the parking lot. And we would watch that roller coaster go all the way up, and boom. Michael, our youngest brother, really didn't understand at that point the difference between black and white, because Michael was the youngest. And so Michael said, "Daddy, let's go get on that roller coaster. Michael must have been about 6 years old. And Daddy said, son, we can't get on that roller coaster. And you know how kids are when they don't understand. Michael kept asking the question, let's go get on the roller coaster. Daddy said, well, let's go to Lanker Beach. He said, no, Daddy. He said, Lanker Beach roller coaster ain't big as this roller coaster. Let's go get on that roller coaster. Daddy said to Michael again, we can't get on that roller coaster. And then these are the words that I'll never forget. Michael says to Daddy, is the reason why we can't get on that roller coaster is because you don't have no money? And I will never forget the reaction of Daddy. He said, get out the car. We got out the car. He said, son, what did you say? Michael says, because he got to look up. He said, is the reason why we can't get on that roller coaster, Daddy, because you ain't got no money? And it looked like, as I can remember, it looked like it just broke my daddy down. Daddy goes into his wallet, pulls out, it's like yesterday it happened again. He pulls out his wallet, and he opens his wallet, and he says to Michael, what is this? Michael said, oh, you do have money, let's go. And Daddy says something. These were Daddy's words. He said, son, Daddy has all the money you will ever need. Y'all didn't get that. Son, Daddy says, I have all the money you'll ever need. But the reason why you can't get on that roller coaster is because you are black. He says, but one day, you're going to ride on a roller coaster bigger than that. Didn't mean much to me, but 4 years later, every year, Mom and Daddy would take us on vacations. And I just found out last time I went back that they would get a loan. They'd pay that loan off during the wintertime and get another loan, and we'd go on vacation. And you know, back in those days, you didn't stay at Holiday Inn. Oh, y'all not up in there. You didn't stay at Holiday. You had to know somebody along the way. Or you stayed in the park, and you had your lunch basket with you. Y'all don't remember that, huh? You had your lunch basket with you. That's why we always had say, when we go in someplace, we always got to have our own what? Got to have our own food. Don't care how much money. Don't care how much money you have. Don't care how many Burger Kings, how many Chili's, whatever. You got to have your own food, which is just a habit. And so that year, we went to New York. And New York up north was different than down south. And the way we got to New York was Mother didn't have a map. Y'all think I'm crazy. Mother didn't have a map. What Mother had was a piece of paper that Uncle Eddie sent her from New York to 6419 Congress Drive on how to get to New York. Mother followed that paper, got us all the way to New York, and got lost one block from Uncle Eddie's house. But anyhow, that year was the World's Fair. And so we went to the World's Fair. And then we went to a place called Coney Island. Oh, y'all don't know about Coney Island. Coney Island at that time had the world's largest what? Roller coaster. And so Daddy said, son, we're going to Coney Island. They had the biggest hot dogs. Of course, we couldn't eat none because we was all strict vegetarians because you got to do what Mom and Daddy say. But we got the popcorn. We got all the other stuff in. And Michael says, Daddy, look. Daddy said, look at what, son? He said, look at that roller coaster. Can we get on that roller coaster? We got on that roller coaster. And we rode that roller coaster 3 times. Did y'all? And then after we rode the roller coaster 3 times, Daddy says, son, didn't I tell you that you was going to have a better ride than you could have had in New Orleans? But where you going with that? The things of this earth is nothing compared to what God has prepared for us. I have not seen, ear have not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of men the things which God had prepared for his people. So there's nobody greater. There's nobody better than Jesus Christ. And so I want to offer somebody in here that man called Jesus. You need to meet him. If you're not a part of the family of this church, and you want to go all the way with Christ right now, and you want something better than what's going on right now, I just need you to raise your hand. There's a hand. There's a whole bunch of hands. God bless you. But we're talking about folk right now who are not part of the family of the church. And you want to become a part of this family, can you just raise your hand? Because there's nobody greater. There's a hand right there. God bless you. Is there another hand? There's a hand right there. Could y'all come up? Could y'all come up and shake my hand? There's another hand right here. Just come on up, shake my hand. You're not a part of the family of this church, but you want to become. Come on. There's nobody greater. God bless you, baby. We have a seat right over here. There's nobody greater. Is there another hand? God bless you, baby. God bless you. He's going to take care of you. He's never left. Is that somebody else? Somebody else right now. He is great. He is greatly to be praised. There is nobody greater. You can look up, you can look down, you can look all the way around, but there's nobody greater. Nobody greater. Nobody greater. Is there somebody else? They said, he did what? He searched what? He searched what, everybody? Sing that, because I'm trying to still understand that. I searched what? You couldn't find nobody. I mean, you had to look high and low. You went to the doctors. You went to the lawyers. You went to the psychologist. You went everywhere, but you couldn't find nobody greater. Wait a minute. I'm going to say it again. I what?
Searched all over.
I mean, you went searching.
Couldn't find nobody.
You couldn't find nobody.
I looked high and low.
You looked what? High and nobody. You still couldn't find nobody.
Nobody great. Nobody great.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater than you.
Can I get y'all to sing that one more so they can catch this out here? I want y'all to understand. You've been searching all over. You can't find nobody else. You done looked high and low. You can't find nobody else.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater.
Nobody
no.
greater.
Nobody greater than you.
Nobody greater than you. I did what? I searched. You know what search all over means? I done gone all over the place looking. I looked high and low. I looked all the way around, but I couldn't what?
Nobody greater. Nobody greater, no.
Is there one more hand before I
Nobody
pray?
greater than you.
One more hand before I pray. Sing it one more time.
Searched all over, couldn't find
I couldn't find nobody.
I looked high and low,
I looked high and low.
still couldn't find nobody. Nobody greater.
There was nobody.
Nobody greater.
There was nobody.
Nobody greater than you.
One more time. Doors of the church are still open. You've been searching. You done searched all over. You can't find nobody.
I looked high and low.
You look high and low.
Still couldn't find nobody. Nobody greater. Nobody greater, no. Nobody greater than you.
Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. And if you want to learn how to feel the way you need to feel, you must understand that when you come into my presence, you can't do nothing but be happy. You can't do nothing but rejoice. And if you're on your way down, that doesn't matter, because I will come down and reach you. I'll come down and reach you. And so Jesus says, I'm going to turn your whole thing around. And it's about time for each and every one of us to turn our lives around. To turn our lives around. Can I get you to stand with me? Repeat after me. Father, here I stand in your awesome presence. And I know that you have promised to turn my life around. And this week, I'm going to walk in the fog, the favor of God. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Come on, give the Lord a hand praise. You may be seated.